Long ago, in the land of Egypt, a baby boy was born. His name was Moses. He was born at a time when the Israelites, the descendants of Jacob, were living in Egypt. They had been there for many years and had grown in number. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, was afraid of the Israelites and made them slaves. He feared that they might become too powerful and overthrow him. So he ordered that all newborn Hebrew boys be killed to control their population. Moses' mother wanted to protect him. She put him in a basket and hid him in the reeds by the river. She hoped that someone kind would find him and save his life. She watched over him from a distance, praying for his safety. Pharaoh's daughter found the baby and decided to raise him as her own. She named him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. She took him to the palace, where he was raised as a prince of Egypt. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace. He received the best education and training, living a life of luxury. However, he never forgot his true heritage and the suffering of his people, the Israelites. One day, while tending to his flock, Moses saw a burning bush that was not consumed by the fire. God spoke to Moses from the bush, telling him to go back to Egypt. God had chosen Moses for a special mission. God wanted Moses to free the Israelites from slavery. He was to confront Pharaoh and demand the release of his people. With faith and courage, Moses accepted the mission, knowing that God would be with him every step of the way. The Israelites were sad. Pharaoh made them work very hard. They prayed to God to help them. They cried out to God to save them. God heard their prayers. God had a plan. He would send Moses to Pharaoh. Moses would ask Pharaoh to let the Israelites go free. God promised to be with Moses. He would give Moses the power to do amazing things. Moses went to Pharaoh with a heavy heart and a determined spirit. He knew the task ahead was daunting, but he was guided by faith. He told Pharaoh that the God of Israel had commanded him to let the Israelites go free from their bondage and suffering. Pharaoh laughed mockingly. He said, "Who is this God that I should obey him? No, I will not let Israel go." Moses, undeterred, lifted his staff as a sign of God's power and authority. Miraculously, the staff turned into a snake right before Pharaoh's eyes. Pharaoh was taken aback but remained stubborn and said no. Moses continued to perform many miracles to show God's might. One of the most striking miracles was when Moses turned the Nile River into blood, causing great distress in the land of Egypt. He also sent plagues of frogs that covered the land, swarms of locusts that devoured crops, and hail that destroyed everything in its path. Despite all these signs and wonders, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. He still refused to let the Israelites go free, challenging the will of God. Section 4. Plagues on Egypt. Turning the Nile to blood and more. God sent 10 plagues on Egypt. The Nile River turned to blood. Frogs hopped everywhere. The Egyptians were scared, but Pharaoh's heart was stubborn. After each plague, he promised to let the Israelites go. Then he changed his mind. Moses warned Pharaoh, "God is powerful, let my people go." Pharaoh refused to listen. Section 5. Let my people go. Freedom for the Israelites. This is the story of how the Israelites gained their freedom from the clutches of Pharaoh. Finally, after many warnings and plagues, God sent the most terrible plague of all. The sky darkened, and an ominous feeling spread across the land. He sent the angel of death to kill the firstborn son of every family in Egypt. The angel moved silently, casting a shadow of fear and sorrow. To protect themselves, the Israelites put lamb's blood on their doorposts as a sign. This was a mark of faith and obedience to God's command. The angel of death passed over their houses, sparing their firstborns. Pharaoh, however, was heartbroken and filled with grief. His own son was dead, and the weight of his stubbornness became unbearable. Finally, in his sorrow and desperation, he let the Israelites go free. The long-awaited moment of liberation had come. The Israelites followed Moses out of Egypt, leaving behind their lives of slavery. They walked with hope and faith, trusting in God's promise. When they reached the Red Sea, a miracle happened. The waters parted, creating a path for them to cross to safety. It was a sight to behold. On the other side, the Israelites celebrated their freedom. Moses looked on, grateful and relieved. God had kept his promise to free his people, and a new chapter began for